All right. digBiz episode 22, I believe, is the number. It is the Keeping Up with the Joneses episode.
Hmm.
Is bound to get here. I am joined again by Chris Guthrie, 365 Cannabis. There he is.
Hello.
And why are we calling this "Keeping Up with the Joneses"? We've been talking a lot at a high level on the industry, on perishables, on the cannabis industry. At very broad strokes, and we wanted to bring this back to real world cases. This is where businesses that we are working with currently, where they're moving, what they're doing, and what this now means for the markets that they are playing in. It is transformative for these businesses, which is why it's exciting for everybody when you're working in this way. Um, it's transformative for them, but who we're also talking to is it's transformative for the markets they're in and the players that are also in that market that don't know this is happening.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so we're gonna talk about the what it is that this does for that market, and what the businesses that are working in the next generation of cultivation management and sales automation, and throw some numbers at this. So let's dive in, Chris,
Hmm.
to some of these core capabilities that these markets don't realize are already happening now. And the first one that we were talking about before we started, the first one is sheer scale of sales and inventory. So, um, so in the old world, in the before time, we were running some numbers, and we our research yielded that a lot of current cannabis businesses are selling somewhere between 50 and 100, sometimes a little bit more than 100 SKUs out of
Yeah.
their entire catalog, we'll say, they produce. They're coming up with 50 to 100 SKUs that they are able to put together and put on their either their website or their marketplace or both. And now this is not a full catalog for most of these businesses, is it?
No. No, definitely not. Like I'm thinking about like just looking if you've got a stable of strains, right? You've probably got 8 products, 8 SKUs by strain, right? You've got a gram, you've got an eighth, you've got a quarter, you might have a half, and then an ounce. Then you've got a pre-roll. Maybe you've got a pack of pre-rolls. Do you have a cart? Do you have a single source wash from that? Do you have an infused pre-roll? So like I take that back. For every strain, you've got 10 SKUs that you produce. So I hope you're running more than 10 strains in your stable, but like you're very quickly past that 100 SKU threshold that you have to manage, right? So like let's say you've got a facility with 100 lights and you've per room and you've got 3 rooms. I hope you're doing well. Okay? So like you're coming down with 200 pounds 15 times a year. Okay. That's more than 10 strains. I hope that you are running. I don't have a number right in front of me. I sort of wish I did, but like I'm thinking of a very prominent brand that I was very familiar with in Seattle back in the day. They were the fat panda in the room, so to speak. And they just came down with strain after strain after strain, and they kept it fresh. And they had a gram, an eighth, a quarter, a half, a zip, a pre-roll, a half gram pre-roll, cartridges. They had edibles and like rainbow belts and just like all of the things. And when we are talking, Jason, like I am always thinking about like, okay, they are in Washington and they sit on Washington like a black and white gorilla, right? But they're in California now. They're also moving into Ohio. I know they're trying to like get into New York, like they are everywhere. And there are certain things because of the way cannabis works that you cannot reproduce, right? In each state. You cannot move your production facility there. You've got to build a production facility there,
That's right.
right? You can't move your people there. The people that are manipulating the plants.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can reproduce. And the people that are successful are reproducing that. They are benefiting from the economy of scale that everybody was talking about. That's why people wanted to build big facilities, right?
Mhm.
They wanted economy of scale. They wanted to buy soil or rock wool in bulk so they get better prices.
Mhm.
They wanted to buy papers and jars and cartridges in bulk so they get better prices. But
And
there are just some aspects of their business that they are not trying to get economy of scale, and it's baffling to me.
right. But I mean, this concept is not a new concept for scaling businesses. And one obvious example are restaurant franchises. Restaurant
Yes.
franchises, um, they are operating with perishables that need to be local enough to the market that they move into. Could be, it could be in the same city, but using the MSO multi-state model. If it's in
Mm-hmm.
another state, there's a chance that their supply chain is going to be more local. Same with cannabis.
Yeah.
Their labor, you can't you can't be moving around your restaurant staff because it's a restaurant. So you need to have a labor force that is local to that market. Same. But what can you scale? You have an entire catalog of process that is going to be the same.
You've
Large
got common vendors
common
that
vendor.
you can utilize.
You've got workflow processes, and that is going to be the same. You have the systems that is going to be the same. In many cases, these systems can be nearly copy paste. So there's a reason restaurant franchises are so successful, and
Yeah.
and and to a large degree, this is what we're talking about. Say, no, you are not going to, yeah, you are not going to 100% run out of off of your home market. But there is an awful lot that you can do that is going to set up that second location so much faster than your first one. Your first one could have taken years to make successful when you
It
first.
did.
But think of the brain trust. Most of what makes businesses truly successful is what's here and in your culture.
Yeah.
But
That's very true.
but if you can't reproduce it at a complete level, at a systems level.
That is what most of the graveyard of cannabis operators are full of. People that had an initial outing that was fantastic, but then it could not be reproduced or scaled because the quality of the products that these legacy and community operators were putting out, they were hand watering their plants. They were hand watering their mothers. They were, like walking up to each plant every day and defoliating and looking and doing visual inspections. You can do that with 8 plants. You can do that with 20 plants. You can do that with, 24 lights. You cannot do that with 600 lights. You just can't. And the product that made people famous was not the product that people presented when they came out into the market, right? They were not able to scale up and maintain the quality of the brand, the product, or the experience that their customers were used to. And that's where people fall down.
So the Joneses have done this, and they're moving into your market. Now, the Joneses, these are real world numbers, by the way. So everyone is clear. The 50 to 100 number is a real number that I talked about before for a lot of these business. Now, the Joneses have done this. They're moving into your market. They're already there, or they are getting licenses to go there, and they are taking this automation and they are bringing it to that market. Now, that automation, including the growing operations, the lights and the watering and the all that infrastructure, that's one part. But now
Mhm.
this is the manufacturing, warehousing, and sales part, which is also now automated. Now they are in real world terms, they're starting with 400, 500 plus SKUs, including lot awareness, product lot awareness, and that's a minimum. And
Yeah,
what now?
that's where they're starting.
That's where they're starting. So they're starting with, for all intents and purposes, as much of the catalog as they can, because they can.
Well, I mean, Jason, let's even take a step back from that. When they show up in the market with all of these tools, okay, what they are taking out of their suitcases, what the Joneses are putting into their living room is a granular awareness of the true cogs of every single thing that they sell, down to the penny. Okay. And it's not in a spreadsheet that Bonnie has in cultivation that then gets passed over to Nate in extraction, that then gets brought over to Bill in the packaging room, that then goes over to like warehouse. And like we're sort of adding up what everybody is doing hours wise. And oh, yeah, I'm like, we know the cost of goods for this round because we started it in March and we took it down in June. So like all of the receipts are just like, that's the cost of the goods, right? And we just like divide that by what we, I don't even know how these people, I don't want to say these people, let's not otherize, but like I talk to lots of very successful cannabis entrepreneurs that are on the cusp of taking a step forward, and they think they're going to keep doing things the same way because they are successful up into this point.
Mhm.
And they say, well, I'm going to just take what I'm doing right here and I'm going to duplicate it.
Yeah.
There are things that you can duplicate.
Sure.
You can't duplicate the magic that goes on in one facility. You can't duplicate the know how. Paying attention to what efficiencies and knowledge that you can carry with you from one place to the next, like that's the key. Knowing your costs first and foremost. You can't do that with ERP, without ERP. Managing these multiple SKUs and selling them, making it easy to do business with you for new customers, like that's going to be the difference.
Well, and using your example of Bonnie and Nate and Stan, I don't remember who else it was. Um, how Bonnie and Nate even got to that point, and Bill, how Bonnie and Nate and Bill got to this point was a combination of dedication, sweat equity, a lot of trial and error to get to a point where they could pass around this spreadsheet and it means something. There is a culture in all of that, and I applaud Bill. I do applaud that because people who watch digBiz, they know that I am all about the culture. However, you cannot have culture in a vacuum. And especially when you are scaling and scaling out geographically, where are you going to get Bonnie 2.0?
No, you can't because Bonnie's been the homie for years.
And even if You are operating in your home market, and Bonnie's been doing that, and you expand to your second market, and we'll say for the sake of the argument, you are leveraging Bonnie to help make that happen, right? You're trying to do that. Bonnie is still a human being for the most part. She can only go so far to leverage what she's been doing manually with those spreadsheets to help market number two get off its feet. That's not scale. That's sweat. And
Yeah.
same goes for Nate. The same goes for Bill. That's not scaling. There's a reason why that these kinds of efforts fall flat. You can leverage their wisdom. In fact, you want to leverage their wisdom, but you can't leverage their operations.
No, no. What you need to do is find a tool that takes what these homies that have been with you for years know about themselves and the business and the way that your business does things, and duplicate it and make all of that wisdom and knowledge and know-how accessible in multiple points the
Yeah,
same way, repeatable processes in different areas.
right.
You've
And
got to make them be in two places at once, three
yep.
places at once.
And then we come back to our Joneses are in your market scenario. Why is it that they're able to sell 400 products without batting an eyelid in your market, and easily double or triple it as their product becomes available, also without batting an eyelid, because they're not relying on Bonnie and Nate and Bill to do any of that work. Bonnie and Nate and Bill have already done the work. They've set up the cogs, the awareness of it. They've set up the manufacturing processes. They've set up the sales ordering workflow that they need. They've set up all of this, and they've set it up the way that they want. They don't need to do any more. They just need to set it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have a company, a competitor that's moving into your market, not only with 400, possibly 800 SKUs, with all of the lot awareness baked into it, but they're doing it with the same labor force as you are, or less.
Probably less.
So your team and your version of Bonnie and Nate and Bill are hammering away to try and maintain 50 to 100 SKUs and the sales process to take the orders, and of course the inventory process to push it up to the website of the marketplace. And you are trying so hard to sell those 50 to 100 SKUs, and they are trying as hard or less to sell quadruple or pentuple and octuple those numbers.
And they're doing it with a full awareness of their margin, how much they are making at every single minute of every single day. And they're doing it with less people. Like that's really what I'm seeing. I'm seeing like a lot of conversation on LinkedIn and in the industry about like making sure you get the right tools in your
Yeah.
hands. And then I see people like talking about Canatech and like not killing on the Canatech crowd. Like some of these tools are useful, but they are limited because these Canatech tools are very young. Most of them are just compliance engine skins, meaning like something to make metric or biotrack useful in a business setting because they're not otherwise. And then they have business logic sort of added on top of whatever it is the revenue model is. Like most of the Canatech are data scraping operations.
Right.
You know, the old adage is, right, if it's cheap or free, that's not the product. You are the product. Your sales data is the
Yep.
product. Your category, your SKU information, your strain information, that is the value and the data coming out of Canatech,
Yep.
usually.
Yep.
So One of the things that I was really just like the most excited to do with you and I, Tristan, is to put the ownership of all of the data and the flexibility of like real tried and true business logic into the hands of the industry, and not have like this middleman that like says, yeah, we'll give you these tools and we're just going to scrape the data off the top. We're going to keep charging you. Thank you very much. And now here's our annual fact book that
Yeah.
they get to sell, at the same time. Like, it should not be that hard. Shouldn't be that hard. And you're right. There are businesses out there who have gotten that it's not that hard, and they are showing up more and more. Like, please believe me, understand, anybody who is listening, if you are still alive in the cannabis industry right now, you're crushing it. You have done better than 90% of the people who have ever tried to get a license. Okay. There are sharks in the water now. There are not a whole lot of little fish left. And these sharks know how to eat, and they are coming with their costs. They are coming with repeatable solutions to sell things elegantly with fewer people than are probably in your in your shop right now. Just like, know it. It is true.
And taking that one step further, a lot of these growers, they are looking at scale, not just in the MSO world. So thinking of, I'm in California, I'm going to be in Oregon, I'm going to be in Colorado, and so forth. They're looking at export markets.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
And guess what they're doing with these export markets? The same thing. The difference is that what's going to happen now, their growing operation, depending on the export market, is going to scale even further. What's that going to do for
Yeah.
their cogs? So you are,
It's going to be.
yeah. So you're a competitor now, right? Now the Joneses are here. They may be in your market, but they're also in markets that you haven't even thought about because they can.
Because all of the homies are not worried about managing 150 SKUs a piece. All of that work is done for them. That is the bottom line for any of the technology that we have talked about, whether it's automated ordering, whether it is ERP, whether it is how you are going to apply AI. It is getting the human beings that you pay out of the manual menial tasks and letting the human beings really drive things forward.
Yeah.
Take the repeatable busy work out of people's hands. Let the machines do that.
Yeah.
Take some time and call a customer. Take them out to lunch. Deepen the things that technology cannot do.
That's right.
But if technology can make things easier for you, automate that and go do human things.
Yeah. Yeah. And the biggest part here is that there is no level of human grunt work that can scale in this way.
No.
It's business 101. It's business it's manufacturing and workflow 101, where there at no point in time can you get all of those details right from a systems point of view literally every minute.
No.
And then, once you get to that point where the Joneses have shown up in your market and they have 400 products that are automating at this level, to them opening up another market for another 400 or 1,000 products is nothing. And another market, and now they have 6 markets and you have one. They have smaller teams in all of those markets, and you have a significantly larger team to try to manage 50 to 100. What's your cogs now? Your cogs are
Yeah.
looking fairly frightening by comparison.
Yeah. Because the exponential nature of the way costs stack up is often just out of range. just out of range when you are looking to scale up is that there is this an idea that yes, we're going to add this and the profit is going to go up, and yeah, we're going to have to do more things, but the real world implications of the exponential increase in resources, time, all of the things that go into that, that is usually just out of reach. When you see what it takes to actually double an operations productivity, triple an operations productivity, like it's fine in the abstract, but usually my experience anyway is that when people are looking at expanding their businesses, they're only looking at the P&L, that that magic spreadsheet that says I'm going to have twice as much money.
Yeah.
Well, it means twice as much work.
Yeah.
Means twice as much resource, means twice as much capital on hand, means twice as many vendors, means twice as many. You better have some way to knock some of that down, because we are starting to dial in around the edges here.
Yeah.
We're at normal business market where a pack of loud is not a 7,000% margin.
No, that's that. What year was that? That was,
Oh, those were the good old days of 2007.
I was, it's not even 2010. Yeah. No, 2007. iPhones, 7,000%.
iPhones and the first pack of cookies to roll out of San Francisco. Those were the days.
But and this is, business mentor 101. You're sitting down with the founder, and one of the first questions that a business mentor has with a founder of potentially a brilliant business is, how do you clone yourself? Founders cannot clone themselves. And I know that there, I mean, there's the old, um, San Francisco tech bro mentality of, you're working 12, 16-hour days. But there's a counterculture to this, and a famous one is, what's his face, the CEO and founder of Shopify, who completely counters that. He says, "Not nuts to that. I don't do that. I never did." He goes, "I go home and have dinner with my family." And so I tend to think that the truth is often somewhere in the middle of all that, but
Mm-hmm.
but effectively you can't keep doing 16-hour days as a founder and continue to do this scaling. Well, what point
No.
in time do you clone yourself? What does it take for you to get a operations person who can represent you as you expand? You can do that. That's one of the models of restaurant franchises is exactly that. You get operations people to help you scale. But even that's not scalable fully. It's still a human being. So even if you do get that, that person needs to scale beyond their own human capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get this, uh, so when we so let's talk about the other areas that this scales into now, because we're talking about, we're talking an awful lot about product presentation and product manufacturing, and then presentation out, and sales
Mm-hmm.
management. But what about sales team management? So you've got a sales team. You don't necessarily have to be selling. Your salespeople are very mobile ready
Yeah.
with technology.
Yeah.
But at the same time, your sales team needs to be able to dial into all these markets,
Mm-hmm.
figuratively and literally. And you now have, and this is a real world Jones scenario where CRMs are now getting dialed into all of the entities. The CRM is now aware of the customer base out of New York. They're now aware of the customer base out of New Jersey and out of California. They're aware of each of these. and your sales team, then this is all automated again.
Mm-hmm.
So the accounts that are active are translating into sales team activity that they are aware of in real time and able to go further with typical CRM and marketing activities, as in logins, abandoned carts, obviously orders. And you have again a scaled activity where these markets are now dialed into your entire sales team, whether they are in that market or they're on holiday needing to catch up. And this is what the Joneses are bringing to your market.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
bringing a documented sales strategy.
they are bringing they're bringing tools with them, like we've been talking about. Like, they're bringing tools with them to get velocity that is monitorable and repeatable right out of the gate. Like, they are coming with the processes and the collateral, hiring somebody in their market that is friendly and knowledgeable. And now that person doesn't really have to spend time learning their, inventory system or getting the spreadsheet from, Diane back at home base about like what is available to sell that day. Maintaining an available to promise list that is dynamic so salespeople don't oversell or overlap sales, like, double booking. Like, that means one of those salespeople.
We haven't
You
even
got two great salespeople
yeah, we
out in the same market. Let's say they're out in my home state of Ohio. Okay. One is in Cincinnati and one is from Cleveland, and they are working towards each other in Columbus, right? There are lots of dispensaries and buyers in there, and they're trying to sell the same, lot of inventory. How are they supposed to sync up every day, every minute, right? That's time that they are not selling in making sure their inventory is right, right?
yeah,
They are checking in with the other salesperson saying, "Hey, I can sell this right now.
yeah.
You've got this bookmarked. Can I take it? Wait, hold on a second. I gotta call Diane, make sure this is okay. What's the price again? Okay. Can I sell this? Can I discount this?"
Yeah.
This is all activity that the Joneses are automating. All of that inventory management, all of that discount management, all of that communication is happening in 3 minutes before each salesperson walks into the dispensary they are about to sell. The Jones have hit 5 dispensaries while you were trying to still figure out what you had to sell.
That's exactly it. They already knew. It was
They
accurate.
already knew.
They already knew. It was accurate. No questions. I got this. Let's go sell.
And I mean, just to put the cherry on top, every salesperson wants discounts, incentives, sweeteners. You got to walk in with something, right? You don't show up at somebody's house for dinner without a bottle of wine. You don't show up for a sales call without some kind of little incentive or treat to just offer your partner as a show of friendship. When you sit down to eat, you both have to eat, right? That means your salespeople can know, all right, I can actually offer 5%. That I have to get out, so we can go down to a 25% discount on
Yeah.
that. And it's dynamic, and it can be monitored and set from home base in a different state by the controller, who
Yep.
has inventory visibility, true COGS visibility, aging inventory visibility, and can update all of that for the salesperson, so the salesperson doesn't have to know any of that.
Nope. And I have this. And this is a real world Jones conversation I had when we were talking about something as simple as the B2B website homepage.
Hmm.
And we were showing them the tools that they have to manage it. But unlike traditional CMSs for websites, this includes inventory that is available to sell. So you can take and you can make a row of product and you can say, I want this to be product. You can put it in manually or you can put it in by category, all sorts of different criteria. And one of the questions was, so we can go in and we can throw in that category because we've now set up a discount rule for that category in the e-commerce system because we know that we want. They're thinking now about promoting and scaling their sales processes, whether it's discounts or through specific lot promotions, because you can sell lots at different price points, whether you're selling it because it's aging out or selling it as a premium because it's high quality, higher quality. They're thinking now along those lines. This is the Joneses. This is the Joneses with 400 to 800 SKUs that they don't have to worry about selling. Now they're thinking about how to promote even more, even bigger, and even faster. So that when that sales rep is walking into that dispensary, they already know this. It's like, yeah, go to our website. We have a landing page for you. It's just for you. And you can go and you can select these strains that are selling at a premium because you really want that. And it's just done.
Squeezing the air out, squeezing the air out of manufacturing. Like that's the air that, the air that I breathe every day, is helping people try and squeeze the air and the inefficiency out of their cultivation operations, get actual like true costs, and just like helping people organize things, but squeezing the air out of getting boxes and jars onto dispensary shelves, like it's just as important, as well as like the experience of doing business with people. Like, it's got to be fun to do business with you. It's got to be cool. It cannot be a hassle. I don't care how good your product is. If doing business with you is a hassle, it's not worth it.
They're eventually going
It's
to
it,
find a way
it's
to
it's not worth it.
yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, we've done it for a few years, but under the hood, they're thinking, I just kind of don't like this. It's too difficult. Or,
It's like,
or
it's a pain. It's great. Like, yes, this product sells, but like that one time I like ordered something that I really wanted. Turns out it wasn't available. Couldn't get a hold of my, rep. They're like busy. My rep just like sits out in the car for 30 minutes. Like, it looks like he's screaming at somebody on the phone. I don't know what he's doing out there. But, but my customers come in and they're like, there's this crazy guy out there. He looks very high. He's screaming at somebody. Like, oh no, that's
yeah.
my rep for my top brand. I'm like, yeah.
And he comes into my door and he's not in a good mood.
He's sweaty.
Yeah.
He's hoarse.
Yeah. And it's January and he's sweaty for some reason.
He's going to get a cold.
so so the Joneses are coming. The Joneses are scaling. They're scaling either through from state to state or province to province or province to country. Where
And
there are there and to be clear, this is happening, starting to happen around the world. Slowly, Europe is getting into this, and for Europe, it's a newer game. But there's already incremental legalization going on, whether it's manufacturing or versions of decriminalization of possession, and so it's all happening. And that means that there are going to be operations all over the place that are the Joneses.
and it's not who people think it is either. It's not big, like unwieldy MSOs, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, super legacy wooks, with Birkenstocks and dreads, right? It's them together. It's those two groups of people together. The new Joneses are legacy operators with know-how, genetics, and the ability to actually discern good cannabis from bad weed, right? All of the top shelf cannabis life, legacy operator, multiple cup winner, hash snob, I only smoke green hits crowd. Like that, those are the people that started cannabis companies right out of the gate because they had all of the know-how. Lots of those folks had never run a business that was not operating on a 7,000% margin with no taxation and no regulatory framework, right?
Yeah.
That was the black market.
Yeah.
Lots of super smart business people came from the black market, but they did not have the ability to scale, manage, and forecast, right? That's what we started out talking about, is that they grew as much weed as they could because they had never even fathomed that they would not be able to sell every gram that they had right away.
Yeah.
Then there was the next wave of like super duper MSO crowds. And these were captains of industry, recently retired soda executives, people who sort of got tired of the tobacco life and they wanted to do something fun with their kids.
Yeah.
If those dumb stoners over there can do it, I can surely do that.
Yeah.
I've run a Fortune 500 company.
Yep.
Well, most of the cannabis industry inherently distrusts anybody that does not smoke, right? Like, how are you going to tell me anything about my processes, my business, my product when you don't try it? So, again, like the biggest tombstones in the cannabis industry are MSOs run by captains of industry. Like the number of CEOs that have been retired from publicly traded companies, it is a long and prestigious list. When you get those business processes that governed tobacco and soda and food and all kinds of other CPG, when you get those people helping the legacy operators with the genetics and the know-how and the discernment for products, when you put those two together, like that's the Joneses.
Yep.
They are coming with good processes, they know their costs, and their weed is fire. And their hash is full melt.
And
And their carts taste good.
they,
And they are not flavored as raw green banana. Okay? It tastes like OG. It tastes like Bubba. It does not taste like mixed wild berry. That's disgusting.
I always think you're joking when you say that, and you're not. That's the frightening bit.
I'm really not. I'm really not. A blue razzleberry cartridge was like all the rage in 2019.
Oh,
It's
man.
disgusting.
And they've had the humility on all fronts to understand what they don't understand. If you are an operations guru, but you do not know what it takes to grow something of top quality, and therefore and then bring it down. We had the conversation about pre-roll, so I won't bring that back. But on the other side, you have the humility to realize that pre-roll is necessary. It's a
Mm-hmm.
necessary part of your product development, and you have the humility to understand that. I mean, you put all those things together, as you said, and the automation and the tools. You've got the Joneses who are coming for every market, and it's the new reality. And ultimately, our discussion for this podcast, this episode, is not theoretical. These are current businesses. We are talking about, for everyone who's watching, we are talking about businesses who are launching systems now, who have already launched systems already, who are expanding their systems as an MSO. An MSO, to be clear, for those of you who don't know, multi-state operator, who have a started off in one market, we'll say Ohio, and they said, we know how to do this. We are now going to operate in California. We're
Mm-hmm.
now going to operate in Colorado and so forth. And then the last bit is the businesses that now know how to um, as the Joneses go, that know now how to scale right down to the cost of goods sold.
Yeah.
And sorry, and the last thing, of course, these guys are coming with hundreds of products and coming out of their catalog, fully automated, fully lot aware, and they are buying licenses in new markets as we speak. Like there are businesses that we know they're buying into the new markets, the new legal markets, and
Oh yeah.
and so if you are in a market that is newer, or maybe even not that new, they're probably moving into your market. And so if it sounds like we're getting a little, a little, putting a little fear in, well, we kind of are, because we see what they're doing, because in many cases we're working with them on doing it, and we're sort of raising the friendly alarm to say this is the landscape. They know how to make they know how to make top quality product at proper product distribution, proper cost of goods sold awareness, at scale, at a level that most of the incumbents can't do. And when I say can't, I'm not saying that disparagingly because they're not talented. I'm saying can't because we're seeing the evidence. They're not able to sell more. They just
No,
can't. And we've
no. I mean, like I'm thinking about very specifically like Delaware, small market. There's not going to be a whole lot of room for a whole lot of fish.
right.
Okay, Minnesota opening up, going to be a pretty. It is already a very lively legislative and license selection. Like these submissions are graded and scored. Michigan is coming back around. Like Michigan has been a bloodbath.
Yeah, is that
A
settled?
bloodbath.
Is that settling down, Michigan? Because it was a pretty crazy, wide open Adam Smith kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if like case in point, full of a really robust medical community
Mm,
that were used to blowing the doors off their rooms because they had no inkling that they would ever outstrip the demand with their supply.
right.
No forecasting at all.
Yeah.
I'm going to have 200 pounds no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, what if you can only sell 100?
Yep.
What if you only have, like, what if you're a one man band for a little while? You are watering, you are trimming, you are selling.
Yep.
Okay. Great. You've grown 200 pounds, but there's 4 months left in the month that you've got to go and sell all this because you've got another room coming down in a month and a half.
Yep. And for those watching, Michigan is actually one of the markets that we're talking about. Obviously, details I can't provide, but because Michigan has been such a bloodbath, as you said, what's the approach that operators are taking? They're taking the approach of how can I approach this market as carefully and as intelligently as possible, using all of this the automation scale that I can put at my fingertips, so that with the minimal labor footprint, I can keep in this market. I can go with this market until it settles down, and then I can go. And this is happening as we speak. This is the Joneses of Michigan. And they know how to approach this market. In fact, literally, they shut down their original system that they had intended on using, that they had been putting together for 3 or 4 months. I wasn't even aware of this until recently. And they said, no, we're shutting this down. And they're now coming in with SalStack 365 because they can. They can use the economy of scale that they've got to move into the market to leverage what they have in the Michigan marketplace, but they can do it because they don't have to have much of a footprint now. They can do it with a very minimal workforce, and still scale until they're ready
It,
to blow the doors off of the place.
it's almost passive revenue at this point for them.
Yeah.
Very specific passive revenue where they have inventory. They're going to be doing that anyway. And it's up there
Yeah.
real time for people to just drop into a basket. Sales order drops, boom, into a box,
Yeah.
out the door.
And So with that, I think we'll probably bring it to a close, but I think we brought enough Jones. Hopefully people are jonesing to talk about this. See what I did there?
I'm jonesing for a something after this. Jeez, I feel bad for all these suckers that are still trying to do things with spreadsheets. I really do. This is just where I live all day.
The last thing that I wanted to share, we talked about this before. We had been running some analytical math on our part because this is what we do on the nerd side of things. And one of the things in traditional retail that we had learned a long time ago, that in traditional retail, 400 products to 500 products tended to be the limit at which humans could maintain a segregated e-commerce sales process. Once you got past that level, all hell broke loose and errors would happen and sales processes would fall apart. That's traditional retail. Cannabis and perishables retail being more complex with more nuances around lots and lot attributes and so forth. We we ran some analysis and we came to the realization that it was probably around 100 to 150 products. We did this before we started investigating the actual players. And lo and behold, what did we find? The actual players were topping out at the top end of 100 to 150. In fact, we never saw anyone that actually hit 150. It tended to be 100 to 120. Most were around 40 to 50 products. And I love it when math works. And it played out. And by contrast, the discussions with these guys, they're not batting an eyelid at 400 products just to start.
No.
They know they're going to do more, and they're doing more with a lot less, and they're doing more with a calmer, sane workforce that is not losing sleep when they go home over errors.
No, no. And it's also not something that rests with one long term friend or acquaintance that is like, stuck with you for through thick and thin. This is something that can be taken out of being dependent on a single person being there and what's in their head.
Yeah. And then those businesses armed with this are now saying, yeah, we'll keep a foot in Michigan because I don't have to care too much. As long as I keep the core business processes running, there is no Bonnie or Nate or Bill that I need to worry about. They're back in our home market. They're keeping an eye on it. They're fine. And they're doing it again for a new market because they
Mm-hmm.
can. And they're doing it for another market because they can. And Bonnie and Nate, they can help out. They can keep it going because they're just setting up the strategy. Excellent.
Keeping the knife sharp.
Keeping the knife sharp. Love it. Keeping up with the Joneses
And they're sharp knives.
and their sharp knives. Thank you for this. We will put Chris's contact information in the footer as always, so you can give him a call, understand what 365 Cannabis does. And as always, you can contact myself or Alexandra at iTristan for CellStack. And we'd love to talk to you if your Bonnie or Nate are threatening to quit. But we like Bonnie and Nate. We don't want them to quit. We want them to hang around.
Bonnie, Nate, if you need me to, talk your boss into something, just like hit me up.
That's right.
We'll
Exactly.
smoke and talk about it.
Yeah. Have a gummy and a drink, and we'll make some stuff happen.
I'm not drinking too much lately, but like I would love to just like roll a hog leg and
Little club soda on the side to keep the
sure. Yeah, you
moisture.
want to keep hydrated. It's the key to good skin.
It is. It is. And we will end it there. Thank you.